Hello, dear history enthusiasts and valued listeners of the History and Sleep channel. Tonight, we are here once again with a story that will gently glide us through the tranquil waters of history, taking you on a peaceful journey, yet one that will also spark curiosity. Today, we are embarking on a journey towards one of the most poignant and talked about events in Ottoman history, the sorrowful end of Şehzade Mustafa. Our aim is to carry you into the depths of history while simultaneously soothing your soul and preparing you for a sweet sleep. First, as always, we are curious about where you are joining this calm historical journey from. Don't forget to write to us in the comments. Perhaps you are listening from a lush green Anatolian town, or perhaps from a peaceful corner of a bustling city. Valuable friends of history, this story is not merely about a sultan sacrificing his child. It is also a tale filled with lessons about the complexities of palace life, the heavy burdens brought by power, and how fate can sometimes be so merciless. Şehzade Mustafa was one of the most beloved and talked about sons of Suleiman the Magnificent. He was also greatly loved by the people and was seen as the heir apparent. So, what happened that led this young prince to meet such a tragic end by the order of his father, Kanuni? Which whispers in the palace, which gossip, triggered this dramatic event? Tonight, moving through the calm pages of history, we will convey the truths behind this painful event to you in a calm and understandable language. Close your eyes and surrender yourself to the flow of history. Because this is not just a story. It is also a sorrowful journey, filled with profound lessons from history that will soothe your soul. If you love such historical content and wish to support our research and these special episodes we prepare, remember to subscribe to our channel and like this video. Your support inspires us to be before you with new and peaceful stories. In Amasia, the heart of the Ottoman Empire, during the fertile summer of 1515, another son was about to rise. The wife of Şehzade Suleiman, who did not yet bear the title of Sultan of the world but gave the first glimmers of his future magnificence, Mahidevran Sultan, was writhing in the sweet agony of labor. The palace walls whispered the tension and hope of this special pain. It was as if everyone was eagerly awaiting the birth of Suleiman's first son, the potential heir to the Ottoman throne. Although Mahidevran could not fully predict the future of the child she was about to bear, she knew deep down that she was witnessing a great event that would shape his destiny. While a gentle breeze drifted through the palace courtyard, inside the room, the midwives were in a state of feverish activity. Mahidevran's cries mingled with hopeful prayers. Each contraction transformed into a step taken for the future of the Ottoman dynasty. These pains were not just the heralds of a birth. They were also the first signs of a new era, a new hope, and perhaps even future storms. Suleiman, waiting impatiently in another corner of the palace, was likely contemplating the responsibilities and expectations this birth would bring. For him, this was not just a child. It was also the guarantee of the empire's future, the continuation of his bloodline. As dawn broke, a joyful cry echoed through the corridors of the Amasia palace. Mustafa, the name of the newborn prince, reached ears like sweet music. The baby was like a radiant orb of light. His eyes shone as if they already saw future victories and perhaps tragedies. His mother, Mahidevran Sultan, embraced her son, tired but happy. This small body carried within it the potential to one day sit on the Ottoman throne and determine the empire's destiny. That moment was one where, alongside the deep bond between a mother and her son, the fates of a dynasty and an empire intersected. The news of the birth spread quickly from Amasia. It reached the capital, Istanbul. Suleiman received this news with great joy. Mustafa was his first son and his heir. This was a cause for celebration not just for the family, but for the entire empire. Cannons were fired, festivities were organized, prayers were said. Everyone hoped this new prince would bring victories and prosperity to the Ottomans. However, the irony of fate had not yet been written, and behind this innocent birth, the seeds of great future dramas were hidden. Who could have known that the destiny of this little Mustafa, embraced with love, was written for both a brilliant beginning and a bitter end? While the day of his birth was being inscribed in the historical pages of Amasia with golden letters, the first breezes of future storms could also be felt. The birth of Şehzade Mustafa was not just the arrival of a prince into the world. It was also the beginning of an era that would leave deep marks on Ottoman history. This event opened the door to future rises and falls, victories and defeats, loyalty and betrayals. Mustafa, still a small baby, would begin to grow up in innocence on this life journey that started in Amasia that day, unaware of the winding paths to the empire's throne, the palace intrigues, the fraternal conflicts, and ultimately, his tragic end. This little prince, born on that quiet summer day in Amasia, was to become the main protagonist of one of the Ottoman Empire's most brilliant and most sorrowful stories. A memory from Mustafa's childhood that became etched in memory and circulated from tongue to tongue in the palace was a hunting adventure he experienced with his father, Kanuni Sultan Suleiman, when he was still very young. They had set out for the dense forested areas of Amasia. Mustafa followed his father's every step, his eyes shining with the excitement of the hunt. That day, Kanuni had specifically targeted a large and majestic herd of deer. He drew his bow, placed the arrow on the string, and carefully took aim. Just at that moment, little Mustafa also took aim at one of the deer with his own small bow, just like his father, and released his arrow. No one was expecting it. What a miracle it was! Mustafa's tiny arrow hit a large deer in the leg, causing it to stumble and fall to the ground. A deep silence fell over the forest at that moment. Then, Kanuni's voice, filled with astonishment, was heard. "My son, was that you?" Mustafa looked at his father proudly and nodded. Kanuni was amazed by his son's accurate shot at such a young age. With a broad smile on his face, he hugged his son, kissed his forehead, and said, "You will be a great hunter, even a great commander, my lion." These words echoed in little Mustafa's ears and took root in his heart. This event was recounted in the palace for a long time and became an indicator of how Mustafa's natural talents, courage, and potential were revealed at an early age. The deep pride and hope Kanuni felt for his son would later be overshadowed by the painful events of the coming years. But on that day, in the forests of Amasia, a father's pure love and admiration for his son shone brightly. Mustafa's childhood, filled with such memories, was active and equally hopeful, based on both learning and discovery. As Şehzade Mustafa grew up in the lush valleys of Amasia and the quiet courtyard of the palace, he was being shaped not only as a prince but also as a multifaceted individual. His father, Kanuni Sultan Suleiman, placed great importance on him receiving a good education, and Mustafa's interests were a reflection of this comprehensive education and his natural talents. Mustafa's education was quite detailed and comprehensive, fitting for a future sultan. From a very young age, he took lessons from the most respected teachers of the time. He completed the memorization of the Holy Quran. He gained in-depth knowledge in Islamic sciences. This religious education strengthened his spiritual side while also forming the foundation of his moral values. His talent for languages was also remarkable. In addition to his native Turkish, he learned Arabic and Persian, which were of great importance for diplomatic relations and literary texts, to a very high degree. Arabic was essential, especially for understanding religious texts and scientific works. Persian was the literary language of the era. It allowed him to understand the richness of divan poetry and the subtleties of classical Persian literature. His proficiency in these languages enabled him to possess a broad knowledge base and communicate with different cultures. According to accounts, Mustafa's command of these languages even gave him the ability to converse comfortably with foreign ambassadors. One of the most distinct aspects of Mustafa's character was his warrior spirit. The vast plains of Amazigh were like a training ground for him. His passion for horseback riding was evident from a very young age. His ability to ride like the wind, the control and agility he showed while galloping, were signs that he would become a good commander in the future. His posture on horseback, the nobility in his stance, impressed everyone who saw him. Archery was also one of Mustafa's great interests. His skill in drawing the bow, fixing the arrow on the target, and making accurate shots made him stand out among his peers. His success, especially in hitting moving targets, revealed his sharp eye and practical intelligence. These talents were not just hobbies. They also formed the basis of military skills. Archery skill was of vital importance for a commander in times of war. He also participated with great enthusiasm in wrestling matches held in the palace courtyard. Wrestling was a sport that required both physical strength and strategic thinking. Mustafa used not only his strength, but also his intelligence to defeat his opponents. Every victory increased his self-confidence, while every defeat made him more determined and allowed him to see his shortcomings. These sports not only supported his physical development, but also enhanced his leadership qualities, competitive spirit, and determination. It wasn't only Mustafa's warrior side that was strong. His artistic side was also quite powerful. He harbored a deep passion for literature, in particular. He learned the intricacies of divan poetry and read the works of poets like Fuzeli, Baki, and Nedin with great interest. Mastering the deep meanings of the poems opened another window for him. He himself was a poet who skillfully wielded the pen. Like his father, Kanuni Sultan Suleiman, he also wrote poems under the pen name Muhibi. His poems reflected not just the inner world of a prince, but also that of an emotional human being, his perspective on the world and his deep thoughts. These poems revealed his sensitive and refined soul. His interest in music was another one of Mustafa's hobbies. According to some sources, he himself learned to play musical instruments. Integrating with the soul of melodies gave him peace. For him, music was not just a means of entertainment, but also a way to express his emotions and find inner balance. He attended musical gatherings held at the palace and enjoyed listening to the master musicians of the time. Mustafa's interests were not limited to those mentioned above. He was generally open to science and learning. He frequently visited the palace library and studied works on various subjects. It is known that he was also interested in fields like history, geography, and astronomy, and constantly tried to broaden his knowledge. At the same time, he loved being among the people. During his times as the provincial governor of Amazigh, he would mingle with the people and listen to their troubles. This characteristic earned him great love and respect among the populace. His just nature and compassionate demeanor increased his popularity. In short, Şehzade Mustafa was not only the heir apparent but also an individual with a wide range of interests. He was a well-equipped personality who had developed himself both physically and mentally, possessed a warrior spirit but was also curious about art and science, and had won the love of his people. This versatility ensured that he is remembered as one of the most brilliant princes of the Ottoman Empire. Şehzade Mustafa's mother was Mahidevran Sultan, one of the most controversial and tragic figures of the Ottoman Empire. Although the meaning of her name is often interpreted as always beautiful or of analyzed beauty, she is remembered throughout her life both for her beauty and the pain she endured. While there is no definitive information about Mahidevran Sultan's origins, the generally accepted view is that she was of Circassian origin. Different theories also suggest she may have come from Albania or the Caucasus. It is generally believed that she was brought to the Topkapi Palace through the system of concubinage, attracted attention with her beauty, and became one of the favorite concubines in the harem of Şehzade Süleyman, the future Kanuni Sultan Süleyman. It is estimated that Süleyman met and fell in love with Mahidevran while he was still a prince serving as the governor of the Manisa Sanjak. Mahidevran was Süleyman's first favorite consort, Haseki, during his tenure as Sanjak Bey in Manisa. The most important fruit of this relationship was Şehzade Mustafa, born in Amaja in 1515. Mustafa's birth solidified Mahidevran's position in the palace, earning her great power and prestige. Because in that era, giving birth to a prince elevated a concubine to a significant position on the path to becoming Valide Sultan. By giving birth to Mustafa, Mahidevran became not only a mother but also gained the title of the mother of the future potential sultan. Mahidevran is often described as a beautiful, elegant, and emotional woman. Her maternal instincts were very strong, and she harbored a deep love and protective feeling for her son, Mustafa. She was ready to do everything in her power to ensure Mustafa ascended the throne in the future. Palace records and contemporary sources frequently mention her noble appearance and dignified manners. However, palace life, especially with the emergence of Hurrem Sultan, entered a very challenging period for Mahidevran. Kanuni's passionate love for Hurrem Sultan and his promotion of her above the other consorts shook Mahidevran's position. Hurrem's gaining power in the palace and her efforts to push her own sons to the forefront led to fierce rivalry between Mahidevran and Hurrem. It is also said that this rivalry caused Mahidevran to act at times with jealousy and anger. Among the stories told is that she once had a physical altercation with Hurrem in Kanuni's presence, and that Kanuni was displeased with this situation. The first, and perhaps most critical, link in the chain of events that led Şehzade Mustafa to his execution began when a new love, a new passion, entered the life of Kanuni Sultan Süleyman, Hurrem Sultan. This was far more than a sultan's romantic affair. It was the beginning of a change that would overturn the balances of the Ottoman palace and rewrite the future of the throne. Hurrem was actually a concubine of Ukrainian origin, known by the name Roxolana. When she was brought to the palace, it was immediately clear that she was very different from the other concubines. With her beauty, intelligence, and cheerful, quick-witted character, she quickly caught Süleyman's attention. Until then, Mahidevran Sultan had been Süleyman's most favored consort, Haseki, and her son, his first prince Mustafa, held an undisputed position for the future of the throne. However, Hurrem's arrival at the palace and Süleyman's deep interest in her began to gradually change this order. Unlike other concubines, Hurrem exerted influence over Süleyman not only through physical attraction but also through an intellectual and emotional bond. Sharing Süleyman's fondness for poetry and the depth of their conversations solidified her position in the palace. She quickly became indispensable to Süleyman, and for Hurrem, being just a concubine was no longer enough. She wanted much more. She wanted to become Suleiman's lawful wife, and for her own sons to be the sole heirs to the throne. This ambition began to make itself felt slowly in the palace corridors. This situation triggered an inevitable rivalry between Mahidevran Sultan and Hurrem Sultan. Mahidevran was worried about her son's future, seeing Hurrem's rise as the downfall of herself and her son. The conflicts between these two powerful women tensed the palace atmosphere, leading to incidents where even Suleiman occasionally had to intervene. It is said that one day, in Suleiman's presence, Mahidevran physically attacked Hurrem, a situation that deeply displeased Suleiman. Such events worked in Hurrem's favor, negatively affecting Mahidevran's image in Suleiman's eyes. Hurrem's biggest move was to marry Suleiman. In Ottoman history, a sultan formally marrying his concubine was a very rare occurrence, and this event caused great astonishment. With the marriage, Hurrem transcended the title of Hasiki Sultan and officially became Suleiman's wife. This situation incredibly strengthened her position, while she became the biggest obstacle on the future path to the throne for Mahidevran and consequently Şehzade Mustafa. Now Hurrem's sons, Mehmet, Abdullah, Selim, Bayezid, and Cihangir, were also legally potential heirs to the throne, and Hurrem was determined to do everything in her power to ensure a prince of her blood ascended the throne. It was this marriage and Hurrem Sultan's desire to seize absolute power that formed the first and most important link in the chain that would lead Şehzade Mustafa to his execution. The intrigues, whispers, and seeds of distrust that began in the palace with this event paved the way for the events that would tragically change Mustafa's destiny. Hurrem Sultan's acquisition of the title Hasiki Sultan through official marriage and her efforts to make her own princes, especially Şehzade Mehmet, the strongest candidates for the throne, created an open fault line in the palace. The tension between the group around Mahidevran Sultan and her son Şehzade Mustafa, and Hurrem Sultan and her supporters, was increasingly growing. This was not just a rivalry between women. It was also a clash of different visions for the future of the state and power blocks. Hurrem Sultan was seeking ways to increase her influence not only over Suleiman's heart, but also in state administration. Using her intelligence and determination, she began to take steps to pave the way for her own sons by leveraging her influence over Suleiman. One of these steps was to influence Suleiman's grand viziers and statesmen. Some pashas in Kanuni's inner circle, either fearing Hurrem's power and influence or hoping for her favor, began to take Hurrem's side. This situation posed a serious threat, especially to the statesmen close to Şehzade Mustafa. The rise of Şehzade Mehmet and the Sanjak of Manisa. Hurrem Sultan's primary goal was to have her own son, Şehzade Mehmet, declared the heir apparent. Suleiman was receptive to this request. Because Mehmet was the first son born from Hurrem and, in Kanuni's eyes, was quite talented and intelligent. According to the tradition of the time, the strongest candidate for the throne was usually appointed to Manisa, known as the Sanjak of the Hasiki. Şehzade Mustafa had been in Manisa when his father ascended the throne and was later transferred from there to Amaja. However, Suleiman, in an unexpected decision, appointed Şehzade Mehmet to the Sanjak of Manisa. This decision was the first serious step that shook Mustafa's position and gave an important signal about the future of the throne. This appointment caused a great echo in the palace. Among the people and the janissaries, talk began that Mustafa was suffering an undeserved injustice. Because Mustafa was in Amaja as a more experienced provincial governor after Manisa, and the general expectation was that he would merit the next appointment to Manisa. Mehmet's appointment clearly showed how great Hurrem Sultan's influence was. In Mustafa's eyes, this was the first sign that his father's trust in him was diminishing and that Hürrem's games had begun. The beginning of the first editions, whispers and gossip. With the appointment of Şehzade Mehmed to Manisa, whispers and gossip against Şehzade Mustafa began to spread in the palace and the army. Most of these whispers were being deliberately spread by Hürrem Sultan and those around her. The aim was to completely shake Süleyman's trust in Mustafa and damage his reputation. This gossip often emphasized Mustafa's popularity among the people and the Janissaries, presenting it as if this popularity indicated preparations for a rebellion. Attempts were made to plant seeds of doubt in Süleyman's mind with questions like, "Mustafa is very loved. Could he be coveting the throne? The Janissaries want him very much. Could he turn against his father?" Such rumors were perceived as a danger to the throne in the Ottoman politics of that era. Because a prince being overly popular among the army and people could often be interpreted as a threat to his father. During this process, although Şehzade Mustafa tried to demonstrate his loyalty to his father at every opportunity, these whispers and intrigues began to overshadow his efforts. Treacherous eyes in the palace carefully watched Mustafa's every move, every word, and reported them to Süleyman with different interpretations. Mustafa was now beginning to be perceived not only as a beloved son but also as a potential threat. This was the second important step on the path to Şehzade Mustafa's tragic end. The role of Damat Rustam Pasha, the mastermind of the conspiracy. As whispers against Şehzade Mustafa increased following the appointment of Şehzade Mehmed to Manisa, the greatest source and organizer of these whispers was now Damat Rustam Pasha, Süleyman's son-in-law and Grand Vizier. Rustam Pasha, a man trusted by Hürrem Sultan, knew that the most effective way to eliminate Mustafa and secure his own position and open the path to the throne for Hürrem's sons was to damage his reputation in Süleyman's eyes. Rustam Pasha was an intelligent but also cunning and ruthless politician. For him, his own power and his alliance with Hürrem Sultan took precedence over the well-being of the state or the bond between the Sultan and his child. Rustam Pasha began to deliberately spread gossip against Mustafa. Mustafa's increasing popularity not only among the Janissaries and the people but also among statesmen was a perfect card for Rustam Pasha. Mustafa's integrity, courage, and the love he commanded among the soldiers began to take on a threatening aspect in Süleyman's eyes. Rustam Pasha used this situation to constantly make suggestions to Süleyman, such as, "My master, Şehzade Mustafa is so loved by the people and the army that he might one day want to seize the throne." Or, "Some statesmen have already switched to Mustafa's side. You must be careful." Rustam Pasha's intrigues were not limited to verbal suggestions. His biggest and most effective move was to fabricate false documents and letters that would completely discredit Şehzade Mustafa. Fake letters were prepared, alleging that Mustafa was secretly corresponding with the Shah of Iran, Tahmasp, and preparing a rebellion against his father. These letters were skillfully forged to look like Mustafa's own handwriting, and their content was crafted to touch upon the points Süleyman was most sensitive about. These fake letters were delivered to Süleyman by Rustam Pasha's men. When Süleyman read these letters, he was utterly shocked. Before his eyes was evidence that the son he had raised with love for years, whom he saw as the future sultan, was involved in a plot against the state. The allegations that Mustafa was collaborating with the Shah of Iran were one of the greatest dangers for the Ottoman state. Because the Iranian Shah was the eternal enemy of the Ottomans, and such cooperation was equivalent to treason against the homeland. The seeds of doubt growing in his father's mind. These fake letters and Rustam Pasha's endless whispers planted a deep seed of doubt in Suleiman's mind. His trust in Mustafa was now shattered. The love and belief a father holds for his child had taken a back seat to a perceived threat against the Sultan's throne. Suleiman was a ruler who placed the survival of his dynasty above all else, and thinking of similar examples in history, he did not hesitate to make ruthless decisions for the sake of his throne's stability. Although Mustafa felt his father's increasing distrust towards him, he couldn't fully understand the real reason. He struggled to prove his loyalty to his father, writing letters, sending emissaries. But these efforts were thwarted by the solid web of conspiracy Rustam Pasha had woven. Every well-intentioned move was interpreted and reported back as preparations for rebellion or defiance against his father. During this process, Suleiman experienced a deep moral dilemma. On one hand, the paternal love he felt for his beloved son Mustafa. On the other, the anxiety he felt for the future of his throne and his state. However, Rustam Pasha's cunning plans and the constantly fed suspicions caused the latter to prevail in this dilemma. Suleiman gradually became convinced that Mustafa was indeed planning a rebellion against him. Mustafa's fate was now sealed. The next step would be the event where the tragic end would unfold. The year was 1553. Kanuni Sultan Suleiman had decided to embark on a major campaign against the Safavids in the east, the Nakhchivan campaign. This campaign aimed to demonstrate the power of the Ottomans to the world once again. When the army stopped in Amasya to winter, Suleiman's mind was occupied not only with war but also with the fate of his son. Rustam Pasha's constant instigations and the perception of treason created by the fake documents were gnawing at Suleiman's conscience. On one hand, his paternal instinct wanted to believe in his son. On the other, his responsibility as a sultan made him think of the security of his throne. It was in this tense atmosphere that Suleiman summoned Şehzade Mustafa to the military camp. Mustafa responded to this summons with a naive hope. He wanted to confront his father, clear up all misunderstandings, and prove his loyalty to him once again. Perhaps he believed his father would forgive him, that these slanders would end. When Mustafa set out for Amasya, he was unaware of the cruel web fate had woven for him. Although those around him tried to warn him, he believed that responding to his father's invitation was his most natural right and duty as a child. Şehzade Mustafa reached a large pavilion set up on the plain of Amasya. His heart was pounding rapidly. As he approached his father's tent, the silence and tense atmosphere around him seemed to herald an unusual situation. But Mustafa, clinging to the shreds of hope within him, stepped into the tent. Inside, contrary to what anyone expected, his father Kanuni Sultan Suleiman was not there. In the middle of the tent, mute executioners with twisted mustaches and darkened faces were waiting. Their eyes held neither mercy nor regret. Only the cold determination to carry out their duty could be read. When Mustafa entered the tent, he was stunned by what he found. While expecting his father, he was met with the cold face of death. He wanted to turn back. Perhaps he wanted to break through the executioners and escape. But the tent door had closed behind him. The executioners who pounced on him at once tried to seize him. Mustafa resisted with the strength of his youth. He was a prince who had defeated dozens of soldiers and proven his courage on battlefields. But those facing him were emotionless executioners acting on a command. According to accounts, Mustafa fought until his last breath. It is said he cried out, "Father, why didn't you listen to me? I never betrayed you." Perhaps these cries reached outside the tent, to the ears of Kanuni Sultan Suleiman. Who knows, perhaps Suleiman heard his son's final cries and felt a great regret in his heart at that moment. But the decision had been made, and there was no turning back. The executioners placed the nooses around Mustafa's neck and strangled the young prince, who was resisting desperately. The lifeless body of Şehzade Mustafa was displayed near his father's tent on the Amazigh plain. This sight caused great shock and grief in the military camp. The Janissaries, due to their love for Mustafa, fell into deep mourning. It also caused great disbelief among the people. Everyone questioned why the young and beloved prince had been so mercilessly killed. It is rumored that Kanuni Sultan Suleiman suffered great remorse after this event. He carried the burden of this decision for the rest of his life. The elegies and legends written especially about the death of Şehzade Mustafa show how deeply this tragedy left its mark on the people. In the eyes of the people and the soldiers, Mustafa was remembered as an innocent victim, a prince who suffered an injustice. This event revealed the human drama behind the magnificent epithet of Kanuni, and the ruthless face of the Ottoman throne struggle in all its nakedness. Şehzade Mustafa's death in Amazigh was recorded as one of the darkest pages of Ottoman history. This tragedy became a symbol not only of a prince's death but also of the relentless struggle for the throne, palace intrigues, and the distrust that could cost a child's life even in the eyes of his own father. Mahidevran Sultan was waiting for news from her son, Şehzade Mustafa, in Bursa with her usual great longing and anxiety. Every whisper from Amazigh, from the campaign, from Suleiman's decisions, was either a ray of hope or a storm of fear tightening her heart. She was aware of the intrigues that had long been hanging over her son like a nightmare. Hurrem's power in the palace, Rustam Pasha's treacherous plans, all were realities that robbed Mahidevran of her sleep. But she clung to Mustafa's courage, his loyalty to his father, and most importantly, her faith in his destiny. She believed her son would not ignore his father's call, that justice would eventually be served. On that ominous day, the palace courtyard was wrapped in an unusual silence. Even the chirping of the birds seemed to whisper a lament. The horsemen entering through the gate were not the harbingers of joyful news as usual. Their faces were grim. Their eyes held a deep sorrow. Mahidevran's heart constricted painfully even before she received the news. An indescribable distress settled over her. When the messengers went up to her room to deliver the news, Mahidevran's feet felt glued to the floor. Her knees felt weak, as if all the blood had drained from her body. She closed her eyes, as if wishing this nightmare weren't true. Every word that fell from the messenger's lips stabbed Mahidevran's soul like a dagger. Şehzade Mustafa has passed away in Amazigh by the order of his father, Sultan Suleiman. At that moment, Mahidevran's world collapsed. A deafening silence filled the room. She couldn't scream, she couldn't cry. She just collapsed to her knees with the pain tearing from within. Tears weren't streaming from her eyes. It was as if her whole body had frozen. The lion cub she had cherished for years, protected with her life, fought for with all her might, her only son, was gone. His own father's hands had taken her child's life. What kind of cruelty was this? What kind of injustice? Mustafa's childhood flashed before Mahidevran's eyes. Him riding his horse in the green meadows of Amazigh, girding his sword, reciting poems in the palace. Each memory left a new ache in her heart. That small hand, those bright eyes, that full laugh. How could it be? How could he meet such a cruel fate? Days, weeks, months passed. Mahidevran's pain did not subside. She lost her sleep at night, her peace during the day. She didn't want to get out of bed, she didn't speak to anyone. The tears flowing from her eyes became a flood. They left deep marks on her face. The beautiful Mahadevran was now a shadow of herself, crushed by grief, having lost her joy for life. The years-long power struggle, the palace intrigues, all suddenly became meaningless. Her only existence, her only hope, her everything had been taken from her. Every tree planted for her son in her home in Bursa became a lament for her. Whenever Mustafa's name was mentioned, her heart bled anew. She spent the rest of her life in the shadow of her son's grave, mourning for him. The former glamorous palace life, the silks, the jewels, all lost their value in her eyes. For her, there was only one truth, the life of her son Mustafa, cruelly taken from her. With the news of her son's death, Mahadevran Sultan had essentially died herself. The body left behind was merely a symbol of unending pain and eternal mourning. The final stop of Şehzade Mustafa's tragic story is Bursa, the first capital of the Ottomans. His body was brought to Bursa and buried there, accompanied by great sorrow and anger, after his execution. A mausoleum was later built for Mustafa by his brother, Selim II. Mustafa's tomb is located within the Muradai complex in the historic Muradai district of Bursa. This complex is an important group of structures from the founding period of the Ottoman Empire and contains the tombs of other significant figures such as Murad II and Sem Sultan. Mustafa's tomb also rises within the calm and peaceful atmosphere of this complex, side by side with the other mausoleums. The tomb is an octagonal, domed structure bearing the characteristics of 16th century Ottoman architecture. The interior walls are adorned with Iznik tiles, among the most prized artworks of the era. These tiles, featuring carnation and lily motifs on a white background, offer a visual feast. These elegant decorations inside the tomb are like a reference to Şehzade Mustafa's art-loving nature. In the tomb, alongside the cenotaph of Şehzade Mustafa, is also the grave of his mother, Mahadevran Sultan. After the great pain she suffered following her son's death, Mahadevran Sultan spent the remainder of her life in Bursa and willed to be buried next to her son upon her death. Thus, although mother and son were separated in life, they were reunited in death. It is also believed that Şehzade Orhan, another son of Kanuni Sultan Süleyman, rests in this tomb. While the tragic execution of Şehzade Mustafa created a deep shock in the Ottoman palace, it also constituted one of the most decisive periods in the life of Hürrem Sultan, who is shown as one of the main figures behind this event. Although Mustafa's death was the moment where Hürrem's long-standing ambition and strategic moves reached their peak, this situation also brought new anxieties and difficult trials. With the elimination of Mustafa, Hürrem Sultan had removed her greatest rival and the most serious obstacle on her son's path to the throne. This event absolutized her power in the palace and her influence over Kanuni Sultan Süleyman. Now, Hürrem was not only the Sultan's lawful wife but had also become a partner in power, having a say in many matters, from the appointment of Grand Viziers who shaped the state's future to diplomatic relations. Her influence had grown so much that some historians consider this period the first signs of the Sultanate of Women. Even foreign statesmen and ambassadors had grasped the importance of maintaining good relations with Hürrem to understand the balances in the palace and reach Kanuni. Some of her letters and diplomatic correspondence reveal her political intelligence and skill in international relations. She was now one of the most powerful figures not just of the harem, but of the entire Ottoman Empire. New anxieties. The rivalry among her own sons. However, Hürrem's problems did not end with Mustafa's death. On the contrary, this time she had to face dangers from within her own family. After Mustafa, the struggle for the throne among Hürrem's surviving sons became inevitable. Her eldest son, Şehzade Mehmed, had been Hürrem's favorite, but he too had passed away before Mustafa in 1543. Now, the candidates to compete for the throne were Şehzade Selim, the future Selim II, and Şehzade Bayezid. Although Hürrem wanted both of these sons to ascend the throne, the rivalry between them was increasingly intensifying. Selim was calmer and fond of scholarly pursuits, while Bayezid was braver, possessed military talents, and had a character resembling Mustafa. This similarity caused a sympathy for Bayezid among the people and the army, which worried Hürrem. Because at the root of what happened to Mustafa lay precisely this kind of popularity. Hürrem made great efforts to prevent this fraternal conflict, or at least keep it under control. She constantly advised both of her sons, trying to reconcile them. But she was aware of how the rivalry among the princes, combined with Süleyman's old age and weariness, could turn into a catastrophe. The victory gained with Mustafa's death had now transformed into a new and more complex danger. The prospect of her own children, her own blood, turning against each other was one of her greatest fears. Hürrem Sultan's final years and legacy. Although the death of Şehzade Mustafa was a turning point in Hürrem Sultan's life, whether this situation created any regret or remorse in her is a subject of debate among historians. Some historians argue that Hürrem was happy and felt no regret for having achieved her goal, while others claim that such a great drama left deep marks on her soul as well. It is observed that especially after Mustafa's execution, Hürrem acted more cautiously in the palace and made more effort to prevent the fights between her own sons. This situation perhaps stemmed from an anxiety that Mustafa's fate might not befall the other princes. Hürrem Sultan lived for about 5 more years after Mustafa's execution. During this period, she continued to participate actively in state affairs. She established foundations and supported charitable works. However, the increasing tension between her sons and Süleyman's old age had increased the burden on her. Hürrem passed away in Istanbul in 1558. Her death was a great devastation for Kanuni Sultan Süleyman. Hürrem's body was buried in the mausoleum built in her name within the Süleymaniyye Mosque complex. Her tomb, adorned with magnificent Iznik tiles, is a masterpiece reflecting Kanuni's deep love for her. Hürrem Sultan's life is a unique success story, rising from slavery to being the Sultan's wife and one of the most influential figures in the state. However, this ascent is also surrounded by dark shadows, such as the tragic death of Şehzade Mustafa. Her story and Mustafa's constitute one of the most striking examples of the power struggles, intrigues, and human dramas behind the magnificence of the Ottoman Empire. The tomb of Şehzade Mustafa today. Today, the tomb of Şehzade Mustafa is an important historical site frequently visited by both domestic and foreign tourists. Visitors come to the tomb to pray for Şehzade Mustafa, reflect on his tragic story, and witness this important period of Ottoman history. The tomb is also of great cultural importance as the Muradai complex is listed as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. However, there are also some sad news regarding the current state of the tomb. It is known that some of the historical Iznik tiles inside the tomb have been stolen, and that this damage has been ongoing for many years. This situation brings serious concerns about the protection of our historical heritage. Although restoration work is carried out from time to time, the inability to find the missing tiles and the resulting gaps create a sense of bitterness among visitors. Despite this, the tomb of Şehzade Mustafa continues to build a strong bridge between the past and the present by hosting one of the most poignant stories of Ottoman history. Visitors touring this tomb can feel not only the grave of a prince but also the ruthlessness of throne struggles, a mother's endless mourning, and the combined magnificence and tragedy of an era. The grave of Şehzade Mustafa stands tall in Bursa, both as a monument shedding light on history and as a reminder that stings the conscience. It will continue to host its visitors with the hope that this historical heritage will be better protected and its lost values restored in the future. What if? An alternative history. The tragic death of Şehzade Mustafa in 1553 raises one of the biggest "what if?" questions in Ottoman history. If Mustafa had not been killed, the course of the Ottoman Empire and even world history could have been fundamentally different. These assumptions cover many political, cultural, and social areas. First of all, the throne struggles would have taken on a completely different dimension. Mustafa was Kanuni's eldest and most popular prince. He had the great support of the Janissaries and the people. If he had survived, he would have been the most likely candidate to ascend the throne after Kanuni's death. In that case, the possibility of Selim, i.e., Selim the Sallow/Sari Selim, becoming sultan would have decreased. Perhaps the fraternal conflict between Bayezid and Selim would never have occurred or would have ended very differently. Mustafa's ascension to the throne would have dashed Hürrem Sultan's dreams of placing her own children on the throne, and the power balances in the palace would have completely changed. The influence of Hürrem and Rustam Pasha would have significantly decreased. Considering Mustafa's personality and state experience, significant changes could have occurred in Ottoman administration if he had become sultan. Mustafa was a prince with a military background and inclination for campaigns, like his father. At that time, the Ottoman borders had already reached their widest extent, and under Mustafa's leadership, the empire might have pursued a more active foreign policy. In domestic politics, Mustafa, known for his closeness to the people and his justice, would have been expected to adopt a more just and merit-based understanding of governance. The influence of intriguing statesmen like Rustam Pasha would have waned, and more talented and honest bureaucrats could have come to the fore. This could have had a positive effect in a period when bribery and favoritism were beginning to become widespread in the Ottoman Empire.